Tune in to the Real Estate Roundup with the River Counties Association of Realtors. Join us every Saturday at 8:30 a.m. on the Mix 104.1 as we explore the latest in real estate. Whether you're buying, selling, or just love real estate, don't miss our expert advice and exclusive insights. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and let's explore the dynamic world of real estate in our vibrant River Counties community. Catch Real Estate Roundup and make your property dreams a reality. Welcome to the Real Estate Roundup, and our guest this week is Lisa Calfee. Lisa, glad to have you back again.
Glad to be here, as always.
Yeah, we enjoy your topics, and hope everybody is gaining a lot of knowledge from everything you've been bringing to them, and just trying to help everybody understand the housing market a little bit better, right?
Absolutely.
So today, let's talk about, which everybody talks about, is the growth, in Bradley County, especially even in the city of Cleveland, too. You're just seeing more and more companies come, and obviously it's great to have, but then there's a lot of trickle-down effect with that of the impact of infrastructure and everything else. So, new businesses, new jobs. So from where you sit as a realtor, how real is that growth? Do you see it? I mean, how impactful is this happening right now?
So there is a lot of growth going on.
Yeah.
For instance, we've got a new industry on the south side of Cleveland that is a food distribution plant, and they are going to be hiring 500 plus people.
Okay.
So with some growth, we're going to get more jobs.
Right.
So where you may have had jobs before, maybe they are going to be better paying jobs, which then makes housing more affordable for people that may not have had that opportunity before. So that's one thing,
Sure.
that could possibly be an impact from some of the industries that are coming in and deciding to do business here in the county.
Right.
And that's good. We've seen some retail businesses open up that are new, some big chains, some announcements. We're not getting a Red Lobster. I hate to disappoint all of our listeners.
Yep.
Not Red Lobster. Not Costco.
I saw all of that. Yep.
Not Buc-ee's. But we are on the cusp of, we've gotten Culver's, which is a national brand.
Right. Yeah.
That when you have these new businesses that come, it provides more amenities for our community. Those that are already living here, it provides us more options. But it also helps people to see our community as a growing community and as a desirable community if they're choosing to move here.
Sure.
Now, everybody doesn't want a lot of people to move here.
Yes, I've been told that, yes.
And we're hearing that, through growth, we are seeing that there are a lot of houses being built. So we're seeing something kind of new in the last few years here in our community, and that is that these big national tract home builders have come and started building here.
Right.
And that's new. We had mostly local builders that were developing neighborhoods, and we didn't have a lot of neighborhoods where every house looked exactly the same, right?
Yep.
We didn't have a lot of the cookie cutter. And now we do have a few builders that have set up shop here in the county and are building. And, that has its pluses and its minuses.
Right. Yep.
Yeah,
you lose a little bit of the uniqueness, but growth is a good thing, and a lot of people look at it as, I want it the way it was, but we all know you have to move forward too.
That's
because
right.
if you stay stagnant, I've seen many towns across this country that have just almost disappeared because they refuse to let businesses in and the growth happen, and it can turn really, really quick, right? I mean, if you don't want
Absolutely. And we all want more services from our government, our county government, our city government. We want more services. We want better roads. We want all these things that are fueled by tax dollars, right? And so if we stayed at, let's just say, and these are not real numbers, let's just say we stayed at a population of 100,000. Everybody paid their taxes, and we didn't have any new people move into the community.
Right.
That's our budget from here on out for anything that needs to be done.
Yeah.
And so, you have employees that work for the county. They've got cost of living increases they need in order to maintain their lifestyle and be able to continue. But growth is inevitable. And like you said, a city, a county, a state can just completely become a ghost town if growth is not done. And here's the thing, growth done well is profitable to everybody in the community.
Right. Yeah, because there's a thing of doing it the wrong way, like you said, and growing too fast without putting the plans in place for the future, the infrastructure and everything else. Because obviously, as the businesses and houses come in, it puts a burden on your sewer system. It puts a
Right.
burden on your utilities, electric and everything else, your power grids and all that. So do you feel that everything so far, for what you've seen as a realtor, Bradley County, Cleveland, Ottawa, we're all moving in the right direction overall, do you feel?
I feel like we are.
Okay.
So there's a lot of controversy over the tract home builders coming in.
Mm-hmm.
When I walk in and I see one of those homes and I see the price of the home versus the square footage of the home, here's the reality. It is a home that's giving you a lot of square footage for a very reasonable price. And that's a need.
Right.
And it's filling a need.
Sure.
And it's filling a void. And it's given an opportunity for a family to buy new construction. Okay? Maybe
Right.
your dream was that you wanted to buy something fresh and brand new that nobody had ever lived in.
Yeah.
And that is giving you that opportunity. And what you have to realize is that we've had a lot of builders in our community. And unfortunately, sometimes the trend has always been to build homes that are 500,000 plus.
Right.
And so that leaves the opportunity to live in a new home completely out for those that don't have that kind of budget. So when you have these tract home builders that come in here and they are building a home that's, 300,000, 350,000, and a family can get into that home and have enough bedrooms for all their kids to have their own separate
Right.
bedroom, it is a growth for that family. And we want not just to see our whole county grow, we want to see individual families be able to accomplish home ownership.
Sure.
And that gives us more options, which is what we need in order to meet the demand for housing.
Right.
Builders, the reality is builders aren't going to build unless there's a demand.
Yeah. Exactly.
So they don't have pockets deep enough, which people think they might, but they don't have pockets deep enough to build an entire neighborhood and let it sit.
Right.
They only have so much. The bank is only going to loan them so much. So they're building based on demand. And one of the neighborhoods that's one of the tract home builders here in town, it's completely sold out. So that tells me there is a demand for their product. Yeah. So what we have to be conscious of, and I think that is that there is something for everybody, and we've got to be able to make sure that we continue to let that happen, because if we set our flag in the sand and we say no more growth in this county,
Right.
then we're going to rob homeownership opportunities from certain people, because there's not going to be anything that they're going to be able to afford. And some people don't want to buy the $250,000 house that was built in 1950.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Because it comes with its own set of problems.
Sure, of course. Yeah.
Nothing's perfect.
Right.
No home's
Yep.
perfect. But I do see that, the big issue is, yes, we're growing. Yes, we are building, having these homes come in. And like you said, we've got to make sure that the power grid and our sewer system and all that, Ottawa had to take a step back because they had outgrown the capabilities of their treatment plant.
Right.
So they had to put the halt for a little while in order to get that figured out. And so, the county is going to keep an eye on that.
Right.
We're not going to outgrow what we have the capabilities for our sewer system, our water system, our power grid. And, we hear a lot about when are we going to get roads brought up to par. Well, we just finished an entire gigantic project on Highway 60. Georgetown Road
Right.
was an example of an expansion project to meet the needs of the traffic.
Right.
You got schools on that road. You've got a new, they put in a new light for those coming in and out of Food City. So all that growth that happened out there on that side of town,
Right.
they met that need by being able to expand that road, and the flow of traffic has greatly improved.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I've been here for 3 years now, and I come from obviously the bigger metropolitan area where everything was already built up and everything, and so I have seen this growth in the last 3 years, and I do feel the same, that overall they're doing it the right way. They're making sure that the infrastructure is there, because it's not just for today's infrastructure that you need. It is planning for the continuation of the growth, and I feel that they are on the right way. Like you said, Ottawa, some other towns, even Chattanooga, have taken a step back and said, wait a minute, we can't keep building. We got to change our sewer system. We got to do other things, So I think growth is always good, is the way I look at it, because you don't want to be stagnant. And,
That's right.
And I get it where people that grew up here in towns like, the smaller towns where you say, well, it used to be this way, But we have to keep evolving because it will disappear. And we've seen, even what they've done downtown Cleveland with Inman Street and everything else to revitalize that and the Whirlpool plant. And they're going to, the mayor was talking about that the other day at one of our meetings, going to change all of that and build some housing to help all different levels. We can't, like you said, we can't just keep building $500,000 houses. We have to start from the beginning and then people move on up, to
That's right.
keep that growth going. So.
That's right. You want to have opportunity. I'm a parent of adult children and, I've got one that's 26 and he's been in the workforce now for about 4 years. They're still renting an apartment and they're in Atlanta. So the price point is a lot higher. And then, I have one that's not bought a home yet. And I've got another one that's on like his third home. And so I want all of my children that are in that home buying stage of life, I want them to find something that's affordable, but doesn't stretch them so far that they're so strapped. Because reality is, if you're a college graduate that's recently graduated, you've probably got some loans you're bringing along with you from your education, and that's gonna impact your ability to buy. And I don't want my children that are adults to start out with a strapped house payment. I want them to have something affordable that is going to allow them to grow their family and not start that avenue that we all go down at some point of being strapped with debt to where
poor.
you feel like you can't do anything but pay a house payment.
Right.
And so these builders are providing us with some more options.
Which is
because
good.
here's the thing, we only have so many houses in our community. If we built no more houses, we would have a homeless problem bigger than what we have. And I mean, that's not even being dramatic. We've got hotels in our town that have become basically apartments because it's cheaper for people to live in those. And I don't know that we can ever solve that problem because it's a double-edged sword. You've got a large, thing downtown that's going to become more senior housing. I can't stress enough how important that is because they're living on a fixed income and they need that. So that's another part of growth that's a positive move in the right direction.
Yep. Yeah, and as we said, it's got to cover all facets of it, from, as you said, the seniors all the way down to the first-time home buyer, and it does take our city officials and county officials to recognize that and make sure that they're planning for everybody, not just one certain group. So, as we're in the middle of our show, can you give your contact information for everybody?
Lisa Calfee, the Source Real Estate Group, and I can help you with Tennessee and Georgia, your favorite Tennessee realtor.
There you go. So one question always comes up. Some people worry that, more houses, more development are going to hurt their property values. From your experience, is that a myth or is that the truth?
I feel like it's more the opposite.
Yeah.
If I have a home in a neighborhood that was built in the 90s, and then there's another neighborhood that's built up that was built in the last 5 years, it's a newer home, so it's going to sell for more. So it just stands to reason it's going to help my property value go up because it's going to be a comparable property, maybe the same size, maybe similar in features, but just a little newer. It's going to raise my value because it's probably going to sell for a little more than my house would sell for. And so I don't see new neighborhoods as a negative thing at all. I think maybe one of the things that's brought up the most is that those houses are so close together. And if they're building it behind you where you have an established neighborhood, I don't want to look at that. I don't want to look at that. And I get that. And I don't know that that's going to really negatively impact your home value. I think it is going to be a significant comparable. Now, while it's going on, is it a pain? It is. Sure. And I'm going to be honest. If you've got construction going on beside you, behind you, right next door to you, it's going to be a hard sell because of the noise and
Right.
all the things that are going on. So it might be a good idea to wait till they get done and then sell your home rather than just, because here's the thing. If it's a similar property to yours, they're not going to rock bottom price it.
Right.
Because building materials are expensive.
Yeah.
So, it's going to stand to help your value. And the more industry, the more jobs, the more amenities we bring into our community, that's going to help property value as well, because it makes it more, it makes it more enticing. It makes things more accessible.
Right.
And there's several new schools slated for the community.
Yep.
And that's going to have a huge impact on property value, because it's just going to be not so far a drive for your child to get to school. It's going to have more options. Right. So that growth is going to positively impact your value.
Well, and it stops the overcrowding at the schools that are there now, because they can only handle so many students.
That's right.
As well.
That's right.
So, as we talked about, it does need to go through everything that impacts a community or a town, from schools to all the other amenities that we talked about. And that's one thing that we were talking about, amenities versus overcrowding, new businesses, restaurants, infrastructure, employers, those help home values over time as well too, right? Because the more amenities around, a lot of people think, I don't want, like I've heard so many times here of, boy, Paul Huff, the traffic is crazy.
It is crazy.
See, now, as to me, from somebody that comes from outside, right, that I look at that and I think this is nothing, because coming from Chicago and all that, and you see this and I'm like, okay, that took me 2 minutes to get through 2 red lights instead of, 1 minute it used to be, or whatever, so.
Well, the comedy part for me is that, people talk about Chattanooga like it's like eons away from here, and it's just up the street.
Yeah.
But just go travel the Split.
Yeah.
Just go travel the Split at 9 a.m. or at 5 p.m. And you'll be like, oh, Paul Huff's the most amazing thing ever. But you know what's good about our town is you've got surface streets that'll take you wherever you want to go, that you don't have to travel, Paul Huff, if it's crowded. Yeah. You don't have to get on the interstate.
Right.
I can go from here to Dalton and never touch the interstate. I can go from here to Ottawa, never touch the interstate. I can go all the way to Ringgold if I want to. Yeah. And so that right there is a gift. Mm-hmm. I used to live in Atlanta and I finally escaped, and it was a nightmare even on surface streets.
Yeah.
8 miles, it would take me 45 minutes.
Yep.
It's insane because there's so much traffic. And we don't have that problem. You can skirt around Paul Huff and never touch it if you don't want to. And then get delivery if you want food from there, that kind of thing. But what also is important to remember is that when we get these new businesses that take up empty buildings that have been sitting, it enhances our community. Right. Like the old Golden Corral that's been sitting empty is now going to be a Chinese buffet of sorts. And that was kind of an eyesore, just sitting there, empty parking lot, deteriorating over time. Now we have a business that's going to come in there. It's going to refurbish that little area. You don't want a bunch of empty buildings sitting. I remember a few years ago, we went to Niagara Falls on the New York side. Okay. And that little town, it was right after COVID. It was in 22. That little town, almost every business was boarded up. Yeah. It was very sad. Yeah. And it could be a flourishing tourist town. But instead, there was one hotel. There was a huge casino hotel, but then there was one other hotel, and there was literally one place to go eat, and it was a pizza place. Otherwise, you had to go to the casino because everything else had been boarded up. Yeah. And
it happens quick.
Yes, it happens quick. As soon as your local government decides that they're just going to, limit business permits, then they're shutting you down. Yeah. And nobody wants to live in that kind of an environment.
Yeah, because when it comes around, companies that want to grow their business aren't going to just sit back and say, okay, well, we'll wait 3 years until you reopen the door for us to come in. They're going to find the next town over or the next county over. And
we need that money to come into our county. It's going to go somewhere. Yeah. Have it come into our county. Blue Ridge, Georgia is a perfect example. They took a downtown section of their town that was just basically dead. And their city government decided they would try to make it a tourist attraction. Well, they succeeded greatly.
Yeah.
Blue Ridge is flourishing, and those dollars are going into the community.
Right.
And going into the residents who've lived there lifelong. They're getting to benefit from all of the tourism that's coming into the area. Now, the negative side of that is it's become such a tourist destination that the pricing of houses has gone up and made it a little bit hard for a local person to afford. So there's a little bit of a balance that needs to be had there.
Right.
But, we're not on the cusp of being a tourist town. We're just a thriving town for working families and people that want to come here and set roots down and live.
Well, and I-75 is a draw for the major businesses, because
for sure.
you got to ship everything, you got to ship it in or out. And, having I-75, some people look at that as, it's a negative in the traffic, but that's a good thing to have because you don't want to be so far off at a highway that businesses will never even consider you.
That's right.
Because it does make it harder for them,
And the other topic that I hear a lot is, we want to preserve farmland. Everyone wants to preserve farmland. Yeah. And I'm the wife of a farmer. So we have some land that we use and we farm and we have cattle on, and we will continue to do that. And then there's another piece of land that we've farmed for years that we were approached about selling. And it was a hard decision. Sure. But here's the thing. A farmer has their land as their asset. Mm-hmm. That's their asset for retirement. That is it. They didn't have a
401k,
pension and all that
mm-hmm.
stuff.
Yeah.
And so when you see a large tract of land that's been sold and going to be developed, and it was your view that you got to enjoy for free, don't be mad at the farmer. Right. He's just trying to retire on the asset that he's accumulated over the years. Yeah. And so I don't think there's any farmers that are selling just to be selling. Right. They're doing it with a purpose. Mm-hmm. And that beautiful farmland, we would love to preserve it forever. But it's not reality, because here's the thing. It's just going to sit there if there's no one in the family that wants to farm it.
Right. Yeah.
It's just going to sit there. Yeah. And it's not going to be used to its full potential that way either. Yeah. So that is something. The Hardwick Farms that has sold here. Yep. I've read some comments people say about why didn't the family keep it? Well, if no one was going to work it, they didn't want it to just sit there, and now it's going to get to be used for the community. Yeah. And the mayor talked about what's going to be going on there, and and we can talk about that on another show too, but there's a lot of great things that are going to come there. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And I've heard that too, even from back in Illinois where I was at, that people get upset when somebody that's had hundreds of acres decides to sell. It's theirs, is the way I look at it. Nobody's going to pay their bills, so they got to, like you said, that's their asset. That's their retirement fund. And you bought it, more power to you, congratulations on owning it for 50 years or 100 years or whatever it might be. And when it's time to sell it. And that should be nobody else to decide, because somebody's got to pay their retirement,
That's right. So, and that property's not free. It's still got taxes on it
and upkeep and everything else. Yeah. So one of our last questions here, what would you tell a hesitant homeowner? So if a homeowner is nervous that Bradley County is getting too big too quick, what would you tell them about what this growth means for their home value in 5 or 10 years? And again, I know we've touched on it, but let's kind of finish it up with that to really help everybody understand this.
I think if you're nervous about growth around you, sit back and watch what unfolds. Mm-hmm. Get involved. Get to know candidates that are coming up for election. Get to know how they stand on things, and vote. Your voice is your vote. Yeah. And there is a plan from 2005 that was placed in 2015 that the county commission put in place. That's a 2015 to 2035 development plan. Okay. You can find it online. You can read it. Yeah. They've done some updates to it. They've changed it a little bit, but get involved in knowing what the community has planned, right? And here's the thing. worrying about it's not going to do you a bit of good.
Right.
You're not in the driver's seat of all this.
Yeah.
If you feel like the area that you live in is getting too busy, then let's sell it now and go to a more rural community.
Sure.
We're surrounded by rural communities. We have tons of rural in our own county right now where you could find something that's a little bit less crowded, that's probably going to be a long time before it is developed, because the development's going to take place first where we have sewer.
Right.
That's just the way it's going to work. Yeah. So you get further out, it's probably not going to get to you for some years.
Right.
And so if you're uncomfortable with where you're at, let's take advantage of the value you have in your home right now, and let's sell that home and find you something where you are going to feel more at peace, where it is going to be a good fit for you and your family.
Right. Yeah, and you're right. There's options with that because, as we said, the further you go out, it does take longer for all those amenities to get to.
It does.
And so if you love the area and you want to stay in the area, but you don't like all the growth or the traffic or whatever, I think that's a great point, is move a little bit further out. You're still within the same county or same, town, whatever. But now maybe you're on an acre instead of being on that quarter acre or half an acre. And, like you said earlier, you got neighbors being built right behind you and you might not like that crowding sensation, and I get that. And that's not to make light of anybody that feels that way, because everybody has their own personal thoughts of how they want to live.
That's right.
So
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm one of those people. I have dogs, and I don't want my dogs to disturb anybody.
Right.
So I like to be a little bit further away from neighbors.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
That's just my personal preference.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, because I don't enjoy the dogs that bark right behind me at 9 o'clock at night. So not sure why that happened.
Not
right?
mine.
No, not yours. Not mine either. So, all right. In our last minute and a half here, any other last thoughts you'd like to give everybody as far as, I think it is a good point of, they're not going to be the voice that's going to change it all, but they can be a voice that can give some input. And I think, as you said, do the research and understand, why is this growth happening? Now, instead of just being right out of the starting gate of negative, like, oh my gosh, here we go again. Understand why that's happening and go do the research. Go to the council meetings. Go to the county meetings, and whether it's in the city limits or not. But
if you want to see where money's going in your county, the budget is online. Yeah. You can see where every dollar is being spent. You can look at it online and see what the commissioners have voted on as their budget. And maybe that would make you feel a little bit better about, maybe your value went up on your house and that meant your taxes went up.
Right.
And so that may make you feel a little bit better about seeing exactly where it's going. We can sit back and complain about things going on, but that's not going to do any good. But seeking to understand why we're doing what we're doing, and then knowing that you can have a voice if you take the right avenues, and not looking at growth as a negative impact, but as a positive force in our community, and that we trust that our leaders are going to handle that and keep it to where we don't get in a situation where we've overgrown.
Right. Definitely. And more growth, more jobs to help also get people off the street,
Absolutely.
You need the opportunities. Definitely.
Absolutely. Rather keep people working in our community than them driving to Knoxville or Chattanooga for a job.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So, Lisa, it's been a great topic. I hope everybody has learned something from this. Give your contact information, please, for our listening audience.
Yes, Lisa Calfee with the Source Real Estate Group. You can call me on my cell at 423-802-0875, and you can reach me online at calfeeandcompany.com.
Lisa, it's been great as always. Lisa, you can hear her every Saturday morning, 8:30 to 9, on our River County's Real Estate Roundup. She's bringing a lot of great information, great different community leaders. You've had some great topics, and we really appreciate what you've been doing with the radio show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
All right. Enjoy, everybody. Thank you, Lisa. Do you imagine a career with flexibility and limitless income potential? It's possible by becoming a Realtor. The River County's Association of Realtors, located right here in Cleveland, Tennessee, is ready to help you unlock your potential. We're your go-to resource for guiding you to obtain your Tennessee real estate license. We're more than just realtors. We're a vital part of our community. Partnering with local charities, we work tirelessly to make a difference. Join the River Counties Association of Realtors today, where your career can thrive and community can too. Visit rivercounties.com or call 423-476-5912. Your new path awaits.